Hey guys, Mike Toy here with Bonsai Boise. So I am super excited about this project. This is a two little leaf ficus, which is part of the Ficus benjamina group. I found this at a nursery the other day over at a place called Franz Whitty here in Idaho. I've never had one of these. I've always wanted one. I just thought they looked cool. I like ficus in general, and these ones just look pretty unique. So as you can see here, hopefully, the leaves are a lot smaller, hence the name two little leaf. Smaller than Ficus benjamina, that is. It's got one main trunk in there and then just tons and tons of shoots and branches coming out of everywhere. You can see that one spot there with just, I don't even know how many branches coming out of one spot, like 20. But I had a few of these, and this is the one that I picked. I come up against some unique challenges in this. I'm going to repot it. I'm going to trim it down quite a bit and repot it and do some root work. As you can see, it's got a pretty good root base already. That was one of the features that drew it to me, or me to it. But it looks to me like it's real healthy and vigorous, and it's been growing. Typically when you get these from a nursery, they don't do a lot of structural pruning. They just sort of hedge prune it down to a certain size. So the branches just go every which way. So I'm going to get rid of some of these front branches here so we can see a little bit better of what's going on. I had lots of decisions to make in this. As you'll see, as we get deeper into it, you'll see that there's just a lot of ways I can go. I thought at one point about doing maybe almost like a raft style, or just sort of letting the branches grow all up and down, kind of like they are now. But in the end, I didn't. It's got this one root that's just growing outside of the pot there on the right, which I thought was cool. I thought it was a cool little feature. It's kind of weird, and I'm kind of weird, so it worked out. So I decided I'm not going to go with the raft style because I just don't think that's what is right for this. So as you can see, I can't get it out of the pot because what I overlooked in my excitement is that it is root bound like no tree I've ever gotten. You'll see here soon. So I start trimming away, getting rid of real obvious branches that I know are not going to make it in the final cut. Got some good cuttings out of this too. And how do I know, you ask, which ones will make the final cut and which ones won't? I don't always know. I sort of make it up as I go a little bit. But in general, long, skinny, scraggly branches with very little leaves, you know, like a lot of those you can see they're maybe 8 inches tall and no leaves for the first 6 inches. So those we get rid of. One of the goals is to get tighter, more compact branching and ramification of branching. I'm using my trusty little, I don't know what they are. I think they're some type of wire cutters, but they make a clean, flush cut, and they are super tough. So I use them a lot, especially for smaller trees like this, where I've got to make some kind of intricate cuts. Also, I dolled up my branch cutters, so that's another big reason. I've got this one big major branch here that I'm going to get rid of. I'm trying to keep as much of that, I call it, I guess, a root base, branch base, because I would like to make a cutting from it. There we go. That should make a good cutting. So a couple of big wounds right off the bat. It's going to get worse. Just wait, it's going to get worse. There's going to be some big cuts happening. But I'm going to try to, what I don't want to do is just nibble at it every few months. You know, if I'm going to make the cuts, I'm going to try to make the cuts all at once and then let them heal over with time. If I keep nibbling at it every few months and take a little more, A, it's not good for a tree. It never really heals. And B, it's not good for the look of the tree because it's just always this big gaping wound. Whereas if I make it as flush as I can now, then over time it'll just heal up and potentially never even know it was there. So some of the significant challenges that I faced with this tree, which is a little hard to tell at first because it was just so full of leaves and branches everywhere, and you know, I was sort of blinded by my excitement for finding one of these. One of the challenges is as I get closer to coming up with a shape and design for this, what I'm left with is that one spot where like 20 branches are coming out of the same spot. That is a significant challenge to face because you don't want, typically the rule of thumb is you don't want more than 2 branches coming out of one spot. You want one branch to divide into 2, 2 into 4, etc. But as you can see here, this just throws all those rules right out the window, which is why it's got some weird growth. So nibble away at some of this, I guess I'd call it deadwood, to try to figure out how to address the situation. I am going to use my trusty non-toxic clear glue on all of these cuts when all is said and done. I've been using that non-toxic clear glue now for a couple of years and it has done wonders. It has not failed me yet. Knock on wood. I'm not saying it never will, but it hasn't yet. But I'm going to wait till the very end. At one point I tried doing it as I went, and that turns into a mess, as you can imagine, because then you get, you know, you're sticking glue all over your hands. And so I'm waiting till the end. Now, decisions. How do I want this to sit? What position do I want it to be in? Do I want to keep the lean? Do I want it to be upright? All of these questions. Also, look at that weird shape. It's a complete 90-degree angle. So what I'm going to do is take it off right about there where that red line is and try to smooth out that right angle. That way it's not an abrupt 90-degree angle to the right there. It's more of a gradual slope. And I'm also going to try and do this without damaging that branch that's very close to the blade here. So there we go. So it looks like an open wound, but shape-wise you can already see a difference. You can see it's a little more gradual and a little less of a sharp edge. And I'm just going to nibble away at those edges, smoothing it out even more. I'm going to have to go and get a pair of concave cutters and branch cutters again since I've dulled mine up so bad. Would have made that a little easier. Now I've got to make some decisions on the height of the tree and which branches to keep, which to get rid of, because I really don't want to lose this nice globe shape that it's got up there. But at the same time, I don't want 20 branches coming out of the same spot. So the first thing I'm going to do is pick a height for it. And then I'm going to start trimming away at the branches. So branches that have 5, 6, 7 leaves, I'm going to take it down to 2 or 3 and just do that all the way around. That will help with future ramification. And I look for any obvious leaves that need to go. By obvious, what I'm referring to is on Ficus benjamina in particular, they love to grow a leaf right in the elbow of a branch, right where a branch goes off in a different direction or splits into two. It loves to keep a leaf right in that little elbow. So I always get rid of those when I can because they turn old and after a while they actually slow new growth. But you only want to do that when the branch is healthy and when the tree is healthy. So something else I'm looking for is I'm looking for branches that I can lose are, well, dead branches for one thing. There are some dead branches in there. Branches that are very like that right there, very long with a leaf or two on them. If I can get away with getting rid of some of those, then I do. More or less, I'm just thinning it out. But I'm trying to be careful so that I don't create giant bald spots in the middle of it. So I want to thin it out while maintaining balance. And I'll emphasize this is a process. While I try to keep it looking as good as I can, I understand also it's going to look a little goofy after all this. And it's going to take a while to sort of fill out and heal up and all the things. So patience is key with bonsai. So I'm just nibbling away, trying to keep the balance. In the future, I'm going to have to, this is, like I said, going to be a long process. I'm going to have to focus on some way of thinning out more of those branches. And instead of 20 branches coming out of one spot, eventually get it down to much fewer branches coming out of one spot. And then those branches dividing and subdividing from there. So once I'm done thinning this out, we're going to take a look at the roots. And boy, was I in for a surprise on that. This is the pot that it's going to go in. Simple blue. It actually looked darker in the store, but that's okay. Kind of a look there. Just a little preview of how that's going to look. So I believe that's the same size. Now let's see these roots. What do we got going on in here? I couldn't pull it out of the pot. It was so root bound. So I had to destroy the pot. And surprise, surprise, that is just full of solid root. Just those big potato roots that ficuses have a tendency to get. There's almost, I want to say there's almost no soil left in it. There's some, but very little. This is the most extreme case that I've ever gotten from a nursery. So I'm just going to nibble away, try to get all this old soil off of here. I'll point out, we're right in the middle of summer right now, which is the best time to do these type of things on ficus. We're right in the middle of the growing season. They're not like other deciduous trees that you want to do right at the beginning of spring before they bud out, because these are evergreens. They don't ever bud out. They're just always leafed out. So you want to do them right in the middle of the hot growing season. In fact, spring is typically the worst time to repot and do root work on these because they just had a long winter. They're at their weakest state in spring. So that was something I had to figure out the hard way. So I'm just hacking away at this, what is basically one giant potato root, or a bunch of them sort of just smashed together. The good news is that they're very soft, so it's not real hard to cut through them. The bad news is it's real hard to get a clean, flush cut across the bottom. And the dilemma here is that there isn't many fine feeder roots there. There's some, but not many. So my options are somewhat limited unless I just made the whole thing a cutting. So I went and cleaned it off, washed out a lot of the soil and just gave it a good rinse. And I'm going to do something different. Just a box cutter. And the idea here is I extended the blade a couple of inches. And I'm just going to do a flush, clean cut all the way around. I don't think I've ever done this before. I've never used a box cutter to cut roots. But surprisingly, it actually worked the best in this case. Think of it like a potato. Try making a clean cut across the potato. It's a lot easier with a long blade than a clipper or scissors. Well, there we go. So I managed to keep some of those little feeder roots. Otherwise, it just flattened out the base. Probably could have, should have gotten rid of more, but it'll be a process. Also, I can kind of disguise the fact just by covering most of it up with soil, and then it just looks like a big root base. Part I'll emphasize here as I'm cleaning out the remaining soil is that while I'm disguising this hideous looking potato root, I understand that in time I'm going to have to get rid of it more and more. So the next time I repot, let's say next year for example, I'm going to have to take off more of that potato root, assuming there are finer feeder roots at that point. And you never know what you're going to find. You might get in there and the fine feeder roots are coming out of the potato root, which means, then you're stuck again. So it's just a process, never really ends. But check this out. How's this for good luck? So there it is. Watch this. Look at that. It is a perfect fit. I almost can't believe it. It just fits perfectly like a glove in there. Never had that happen before. So there we go. So I'm going to build up a little mound right in the middle, because as you can see there's kind of a hollow spot in that potato root in the middle. And then I'm just going to push it down onto it. So that way, hopefully, I'm getting all the soil in there so that there are no air pockets. That's what I do not want. I want to avoid any air pockets in there, because then it dries out and any roots that are in there will die, etc., etc. Bad things happen. So I want to get rid of any air pockets. I'm going to do this kind of slowly and methodically, so I'll speed it up for your sake. But I'm just pouring in soil a little bit at a time, pushing it in there as much as I can. You want to work the soil into the roots as much as possible. I don't know about anybody else out there, but this is the part that always takes me the longest. Out of trimming and getting the soil out of the old roots, that can take a while. Trimming roots, that can take a while sometimes. But this part in particular always takes the longest. You would think it'll hold a certain amount of soil, but it holds like 3 times as much soil as you expect it's going to when you start packing it in there. So I did most of it off camera because it's really boring to watch. So I'm going to give it a good watering now. And I'll give you one more spoiler alert, behind the scenes thing. So I always do this on camera. And then off camera, I take it over to the sink or a hose and I really, really, really rinse it. pat it down on the ground a couple times to just sort of fix any loose soil, get it into place, rinse it out again. I rinse it a lot more thoroughly than what it looks like on camera. I basically rinse it until the cloudiness goes away and it's much more clear. And in the end, there we go. I'm going to make a couple minor adjustments, and then I'm going to seal up these wounds. I decided on this weird looking root, just not going to work. In fact, I really don't like the whole root at all. But I'm only going to take it back to fit inside of the pot, because it does have some of those little fine feeder roots, and those are at a premium on this tree, so I want to keep those while I can. But first chance I get, I'm going to get rid of that root, because it's just right over top. I wish I would have stopped so you can see. It's right over top of another big root. Here's my secret sauce there, clear, non-toxic glue. You can buy it at any dollar store or Walmart or whatever. And I'm just going to seal up these wounds. I've also heard you can use super glue. I have not tried it, but I might, especially on some outdoor trees. I might use super glue instead. Though I'm hesitant because I don't want super glue all over my hands. But, you know, no one said the bonsai life is easy. Am I right? So what I'm trying to be careful of here is I don't want to smear dirt or dust into the wound and then seal that in there. So that's what I did by mistake. So I'm rinsing off the glue real quick. I'll give you a look at it here. I don't want to slather glue all over the tree. Just try to keep it on the wounds as much as I can. And it doesn't last forever, but it seems like it lasts just long enough for the wound to heal up. And that keeps bugs out and any chance of, bacteria and fungus, that kind of thing. So, and it also stops the tree from bleeding. You want to keep the sap in there as much as you can. So there we go. The biggest, ugliest wound is right at the top. So I cannot wait for that to heal up. But there we go. That's it. So this is my new 2 little leaf ficus. I was very excited to get it. Thank you to Franz Whitty for carrying it. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you haven't liked and subscribed yet, please do. You can see updates on this tree and other trees that I work on. I've got several of them, and I try to post updates as often as I can. So appreciate everyone who does. Leave me any comments that you've got on this particular variety. Would love to hear it. Thanks. Have a good rest of your day.